statement, our mission. Helping Parents Heal is a nonprofit organization dedicated to assisting bereaved parents to become shining light parents by providing support and resources to aid in the healing process. We go a step beyond other groups by allowing the open discussion of spiritual experiences and evidence for the afterlife in a non-dogmatic way. Affiliate groups welcome everyone, regardless of religious or non-religious background, and allow for open dialogue. Attendance today at this meeting is voluntary, and we are here for the benefit of learning from and sharing with other parents whose child has passed away. It is understood that these discussions are intended to be confidential and not designed to replace traditional therapy or spiritual counseling. Helping Parents Heal offers a wide variety of speakers to allow parents to be informed about many possible ways to heal, to connect with their children, and to learn about the afterlife. The views expressed by our guests do not necessarily reflect those of Helping Parents Heal, and we ask that you take from their presentations whatever may benefit you personally. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you, Irene. So I'll be reading Susan's bio. It's very impressive. She is first and foremost a mom and a Texan. She is the proud mama of Jessica, who is in spirit the middle child and the cheese between her brothers, Jordan and Jonah. She is the daughter of a Holocaust survivor and a world-renowned psychic healer. Her unique perspective on grief comes from her earliest experiences with reincarnation, memories of past lives, and the eternal nature of the soul. Jessica escaped her body after a 17-month battle with colon cancer, but the incredible and compelling messages Susan received after Jessica's death pushed her to write Winks from Heaven. Susan spent more than 25 years counseling Fortune 500 companies, CEOs, and foreign governments. She was a script writer for CNN and worked at both Vanity Fair and Vogue. Her writing has been published in More, Glamour, Vanity Fair, Self, Pregnancy, Fitness, Southern Living, and Psychology Today. Her book, Winks from Heaven, is being incorporated into the medical school curriculum of the Medical College of Virginia, MCV, to illustrate the touch points where science and spirituality meet. It has received praise and support from well-known figures like Dr. Eben Alexander, Mitch Alborn, Bob Goff, Elizabeth Lesser, and Bruce Grayson of the University of Virginia's Department of Perceptual Studies, considered the father of near-death experience research. After Jessica's transition, Susan launched Good Grief Counseling to help others on their grief journey, particularly parents who have lost children. She is a certified transformation life coach focusing on the transformational aspect of grief and how it can move us forward in relationship and connection with our children, our faith, and a life of renewed purpose. Additional resources can be found at www.winksfromheaven.net. I'll put that in the chat box, and www.goodgriefcounseling.net. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Susan Wysoki.
Thanks, Elizabeth, and thanks, Irene. I'm really excited to be here tonight. Thank you guys for having me. First and foremost, I just want to say that for all of you that haven't experienced Winks from Heaven, it's something that I think can happen for just about anyone if you are open to it, and if you're looking for it, and if there are certain things that were a special touch point between you and your child, I think you will start to see them. Someone told me after Jessica passed that I would start to see her everywhere. And just coming out of that grief, I really didn't believe that statement, but I can tell you the communication has been so overwhelming and so compelling that I can say without a doubt that you can and will see your child everywhere. I know Elizabeth and Irene both know that too. But anyway, I do want to switch, if I can just start just showing people a little bit if
Oh,
there's some way we
yes.
can
And let me, okay. There we go.
share. And
Go
let me
ahead.
see, I'm going to show you a little bit of, let's see, if we can share screen.
You should be able to. Can you?
Okay, let's see. Okay. Let's see. All right, are you guys seeing that?
Not yet. That's unusual. I wonder, let's see here now. Is it saying that it's allowing you and it's just not doing so? Let me make you a co-host. Here you go. I'm going to make you a co-host, and that will probably help out.
Okay.
So you have exactly the same capability that I do now.
Okay. All right. So if I were on, let me see if I can screen share.
It should be on the bottom, the green button on the bottom of the middle of the screen.
Yep. And I'm trying to, let's see. It's saying desktop. It's not giving me the option to share my screen. Choose what you'd like to share.
It won't let you share your screen. It lets you share your desktop, and then you need to go from your desktop to the place that you find the file that you're wanting to share.
Yeah, it's right on my desktop. Let's see. I wonder if it's no, it's not letting me do that either. It says desktop, but it won't give me the option to share. It's just, I'm either getting cancel or.
Let's see. Okay.
It's just giving me the option to cancel.
Let's see. For me, it says open system preferences. Let me think here. I'm just seeing what it does on mine. You know, unfortunately, sometimes these things are okay. Yeah, I see what you mean. Mine's doing that too. This is weird. And then it's asking me to sign in. Okay.
Speaker view. Let's see. No, that just means I'm seeing you.
I don't know. I really, let's see. One participant, okay, advanced sharing options.
It says host has disabled screen sharing is what Kate is saying to everyone.
Okay. Well, I just put for all participants, allow Zoom. I just put it for all participants, not just for you. Oh, there it goes.
Okay, here we go. Okay.
Yay.
Okay. It's, no.
That might not be what you wanted to share though, right?
No, I don't know. It's saying share entire screen. It's still not letting me share.
Okay, I'm
Is it
putting.
still saying disabled? That was me sharing. How weird. Oh, hi, Kate.
Well, this is very unusual because you are a co-host, so you shouldn't have any trouble. I'm going to make you a host. There. You're a host now.
That would be. Okay, cool.
I'm not the host anymore. Hopefully that'll do something.
Okay, let's see. Now it looks like it's letting me share. Hold on.
Oh, there it goes.
Okay. Okay.
Whew.
Okay, can y'all see that?
Yes. Yes.
Okay,
Beautiful.
and then I can try to go back. Let's see. Oops. Let's see. Sorry about that. Okay. Okay. So basically what I learned from Jessica's journey and all of the communication that I got, sorry for the technical glitches, is that love never dies. That's the message. I don't know, at some point that I knew Jessica would be an angel, but I don't know what possessed me to put Jessica into these angel wings, but I did. And as you guys can see, so it doesn't take up the whole thing. She was a very thoughtful soul. You can see what an old soul she was from these pictures. And she was a very, I think she definitely was an old soul. She was a very spiritual gal. But somehow we went from this happy, healthy gal to this in 17 months. Jessica had stage 4 colon cancer. She was diagnosed in December of 2016, and she passed away the day after what should have been her high school graduation. And literally, I feel like God put people in our path all along the way just to bring us comfort. And from the very moment that we were told that very critical piece of information that she wasn't going to make it, we knew that we were going to have an uphill battle. And it was on that day that I ran into this gentleman on my way down to the hospital. And he was not someone I had ever met before. He was a complete stranger. But I bumped into him as I was picking up coffee that morning. And for some reason, he acknowledged me and said, "Hey, how are you doing this morning?" And I said, "Well, honestly, I'm not doing so great." And he said, "I'm so sorry to hear that. What's going on?" And I said, "Well, it's my daughter." I don't know why I felt compelled to share this with him, but I said, "Well, it's my daughter, Jessica. She's in the hospital and they're telling us she's not going to make it." And he said, "Oh, my daughter's name is Jessica." And, but as soon as I said, she's not going to make it, literally it was like I had just won, the chess game in that conversation. And he was clearly at a loss for what to say. And he said, "Well, just know that she's going to a better place." And I said, "I want to believe that, but I'm just having a really hard time with that." And I went and sat down, and he came over and approached me again and said, "I want to tell you a story because I think it will help you." And he said, "I grew up in San Antonio, Texas." And I said, "I grew up in San Antonio, Texas." And I said, and he said, and he said, "And I went to John Marshall High School." And I said, "Well, I didn't go to John Marshall, but went to a rival high school. We played them in football." And he said, "And when I was in high school, I lost my best friend in the whole world. And he was riding my motorcycle and was thrown from the bike and killed instantly." And he said, "And I struggled with this for years. I couldn't get over it." And he said, until one day in college, I packed up my pickup truck and went out west. And he said, and I was sleeping one night underneath the stars. And he said, and I dreamed of David. And he said, but I know it wasn't a dream. He said, as I was laying in the back of my pickup truck, he said, David came to me and said, "Man, you got to stop doing this. You got to stop. You got to get over this." And he said, "Where are you?" And he said, "Do you want," and his friend answered, "Do you want to see?" And he said, just like that, it was like a hand pulled across this starry curtain, and in the night sky. And literally, the next thing he knew, they were flying. And he said he asked about a friend of theirs, and the next thing he knew, they were, that they were friends with in high school. And the next thing he knew, they were looking in on him. He was at the University of Texas, and he saw them, he saw his friend, red Solo cup in hand, at a frat party, joking, having fun. And then he asked about an old girlfriend, and in that instant, he was transported up to the beach in California, where he saw her walking along the beach and saw exactly what was going on in her life at that moment. And he said, me and Moto are up here giving him hell. And Moto was another friend from high school who had also passed away. And So basically, he felt like he was getting this, instant 360 view of everything that was going on in everyone's life at that very moment. And he said, and then he was plucked back down into his pickup truck, and his friend said, now, I'm not going to be able to do this again, but I just want you to know that when it's your time, we'll be here waiting for you. And he said, now I know that's not a dream. And I said, no, I know that's not a dream too. It was so compelling. And so moving for me to get that message at that exact moment on the day that we had just been told that Jessica wasn't going to make it. And that was just the encouragement and inspiration that I needed. Now I should say that, let's see, from that point, we thought we would try to do this really aggressive surgery called high Pec. We had to go to the University of University of Pittsburgh. And the difficulty with that was that I wasn't sure, this was just a minor thing, where I was going to be staying. The surgery is called high Pec. It's the mother of all surgeries. It's literally 12 to 14 hours. They make an incision from the sternum all the way down, and they remove any organs that they can. They remove all the visible cancer that they can, and then they do a lavage of the organs with hot chemotherapy. And they literally close the patient up and roll them on the table for 90 minutes. And that's how they try to kill all the cancer. In Jessica's case, the surgery was not successful. And we heard pretty quickly, within about 6 hours, that they weren't able to complete the operation. And they said if they did everything, they took out everything they needed to take out, she'd be like a Barbie doll cut in half. But in the meantime, just as a minor wrinkle, I thought, I'm not sure where I'm going to be staying during this whole process. And I don't know anybody in Pittsburgh, but a friend of a friend, a friend from Richmond called me the morning of the surgery and said, oh, honey, we've got to figure out a place for you to stay. And within 30 minutes, she called me back, and a friend of hers had another friend who had another friend whose neighbor had a mother-in-law who had just moved into assisted living, and they had a fully furnished basement apartment that was just 2 blocks from the hospital. So that was a blessing in and of itself, but that wasn't even the biggest blessing. It turns out that the anesthesiologist that was in the operating room, Jessica, just happened to be very good friends of the family that I was staying with. And let me see if I can stop sharing this so you guys can see. Resume share. Okay. And he felt compelled to call them because he said, I just want her mother to know. And he said, Jessica asked such good questions. She was so smart. She wanted to be a student herself. And in the operating room, he said, we're all trained to have this suit of armor on. And he said, but I can tell you, no one in that operating room had a suit of armor on. And he said, and I've worked with Dr. Bartlett, the main surgeon, for 15 years. I've been in thousands of operations with him. And he said, and I've never seen him do this, but he just wouldn't leave her. And hearing that as a mom was the most encouraging thing I think I could have heard, just knowing how well cared for Jessica was. And, so that was just a beautiful, beautiful, message that we got. Let me tell you some other, hold on, let's see if I can do this again. It's going to do the same thing again. I should have just stayed on there. Hold on. Okay, are you able to see that or no?
Not yet. I'm
okay.
sorry. I wish I could do it for you. I don't have it. Yeah,
that's okay. I'm trying to figure out how I can minimize this. Here we go. Can you guys still see me or no?
We can see you. Yes.
Oh,
yes.
good. Okay. Well, then I don't need to have you guys looking at the thing unless there's a way to do this. But throughout this whole process, I feel like Jessica was giving me messages along the way. Let's see if it'll do it again. Hold on. Cancel, share, desktop. Oh, it's doing it again. Did you?
I didn't do anything. No, you're still a
Oh,
host.
this is so
You're the
weird.
host.
This is so weird. That's so weird.
I don't know why it's not allowing you to do it. That's just
okay. Well, in any event, I feel like Jessica was sending me messages. I would see a license plate that would say, "Life is short. I'm too tired," and there we go. And that's just the way it is. So that was the message that I was getting those messages all up to the point where she ended up in basically a medically induced coma. And she had mitts wrapped around her hands, so she couldn't pull the tube out of her throat. But on one particular morning, she woke up from this coma and she did the air sign, that you would use if you wanted a pen. So we brought her a pad and a pen, and she wrote down one word, and that word was God. And she went back into the coma. She didn't die that day, but it was very clear that she was crossing over between, multiple dimensions, and the veil was definitely thinning. Now, she passed away, as I mentioned, on the day after her high school graduation, and I still had some guilt around the fact that I wasn't with her the morning that she passed, but I think that was intentional. I think in many cases our kids don't want us to be in the room. There have been lots of studies done to show that kids will often wait for their parents to be out of the room before they can transition and know that the coast is clear. But the first thing I saw leaving the hospital, as I was in a complete daze, I came to a stoplight and the license plate in front of me said "One Love." And we had always talked about license plates. My kids and I always looked at them as we were on road trips and things. And so it was just very meaningful for me to look up and see "One Love." Now, what was even more remarkable was that my son, who was driving with his dad in another car going a different route, texted me at that particular moment and said, "Look what I'm looking at." And I was still sitting at the stoplight. So, I proceeded to open up my text message, and he's looking at a license plate that said "One Love 7."
oh.
And we got that message at exactly the same moment with exactly the same takeaway, which is that it's all about one love. Now, the day after Jessica passed, obviously still very much in shock, I was sort of stumbling around, just wandering around a little retail area in Richmond where I live. And this woman crossed right in front of me, and it was impossible to miss her. She had black leather, lots of tattoos, but the tattoo on her leg, I almost tripped into her, immediately caught my eye. And it was a tattoo of a kitty that was boxing, had one black eye, and on top of this cat, it read "Mama tried." And for me, that was the most profound message I could have gotten. It was as though Jessica was telling me, "I know how hard you fought for me, Mom, and I know how hard you tried." And I don't know anybody that would have a tattoo of a boxing kitty, much less one that said "Mama tried," but that was the message that I needed to hear on that particular moment. And then I started to get what I call these sort of heavenly progress reports. And again, I wish I could show those. Let's see if I can try it one more time. Share, and nope, it's not. Do it here. But anyway, so I would see license plates everywhere, but I saw "Okay so far," "Alive," "I'm in power," "One in God," "You and I are one," "Be the peace," "Choose God," "Moving on," "Be seeing you," "See you soon." And these were all different license plates that I saw that would just come into view. And so I thought that was really, really interesting. And my younger son, trying to process all of this, had a very, very wise I think, response to everything. You wonder how siblings take all of this and how they process it. And I was so incredibly impressed with how my youngest son was able to deal with this, because after Jessica passed, he started getting lots and lots of messages from people who were texting him and saying that they were sorry. And he said, "Mom, why are all these people texting me? I don't know these people, and what are they sorry about?" And I said, "Well, they're sorry for the relationship that you won't have. They're sorry for your loss." And he said, "Why? What we had was perfect, and her dying doesn't change that." And I was so impressed with, excuse me, the way that he was able to process that and to find that amazing nugget of wisdom in her death. Now, after, I want to say, let's see, her service was full of music. My niece sang Etta James at Last, Blackbird, Adele, Feel My Love, and my boys put a slideshow together with beautiful pictures from birth to, to teenage years, with What a Wonderful World, Jack Johnson, Better Together, and Louis Armstrong, What a Wonderful World, and then the Hawaiian version of Somewhere Over the Rainbow. And a week after the service, we're sitting out at a family gathering outside at someone's pool party, and everyone's still in a daze, and they're playing music outside, and one by one the songs from the service started to play almost back to back. And I was getting very emotional, and I asked the host, "Are you playing these songs on purpose?" And he said, "No, this is Pandora. You can't even program the songs. It's a channel." And I said, "What channel is this?" And he said, Laid Back Beach. And I said, "Okay, Laid Back Beach is getting Etta James. It's getting Adele. It's getting Jack Johnson." And then it got to the Hawaiian version of Somewhere Over the Rainbow. And at that point, my friend sitting next to me said, "Oh my gosh, if I hear one more song from the service." And I literally put my arms up to the sky and said, "What do you want from God?" And the very next song was Louis Armstrong, What a Wonderful World, which was the very last song that had played at her service. And everyone, just without a doubt, everyone just started bawling simultaneously. It was just an amazing experience. And that night, my boyfriend, who was sleeping in my older son's room, had an apparition, and he saw about 3 a.m. He said he bit his tongue to make sure he wasn't dreaming. He saw an illuminated dove that he said was animated, its wings were moving, and underneath the dove was a tiger's head. And he came down that morning with his head in his hands, just bawling. And he wasn't sad. He was happy because he was just so overwhelmed. But he said it was like Jessica was saying, she was strong and fierce and at peace. And he knew that she wasn't in any pain. So that was just a beautiful message. Now, fast forward another week or so following Jessica's service, and some friends are trying to encourage me to get out and see them. And this, they invited me to a luncheon. There were probably 20 people there. Half of them I knew, half of them I didn't know. I had no interest in going to do anything. As most of you know, you probably just want to stay in bed and curl up. But they said, "Come on, it'll be good for you." And so I went, and there was this long table. And as I said, half the people I knew, half the people I didn't know. But this woman walks in who has a black dress on, covered in bones, skulls, femurs, rib cages, looks like Halloween, but this is the middle of June. And she's got this big boofy hair and cat eye glasses, and she's covered in tattoos. Now, immediately I think, okay, this is a neon sign saying, pay attention to me. I could not ignore this woman. But she sat on the other end of the table, and I was chit-chatting on my side of the table, making small talk, and I hear someone ask her, so what do you do? And she said, I'm an embalmer. And my ears perked up. And then I heard the follow-up question, what funeral home? And she mentioned the funeral home where my daughter was taken. And I immediately, like a crazy woman, had my phone, reached across the table with Jessica's picture on my phone. Excuse me. By any chance, did you happen to take care of this young lady? And she stopped, and she was very uncomfortable, and she took a big swallow, and she said, as a matter of fact, I did. And she said, now this is really unusual, she said, because I'm the only person there that does what I do. And she said, and I get little babies that fall into swimming pools, and I hold those babies and I carry them. But when your daughter came in to us, we looked at each other and said, what the? And I said, I know, right? And she said, but she was so beautiful and she fought so hard. And it occurred to me that this was the last person who had touched Jessica on this earth. And it was just unbelievable to me that I've never met anyone in the funeral arts. But here was not only someone in that profession, but the person who had cared for Jessica. And, as we were talking, it was really obvious that, this was someone who was able to pair science and spirituality. And this was someone who really, truly cared about the people who came to her. She wasn't just checking boxes. She wasn't looking at the clock. She really, truly cared. And just to get that message, to know that Jessica was so well cared for, was really, really amazing. And so she showed me these beautiful tattoos. She had this crazy bird cage on one arm that was an empty bird cage. And she told me that symbolized freedom because the bird had flown. And then she had a beautiful blue lotus flower, which was amazing. And as we left the luncheon, I hugged her and held on to her for way too long as she would let me. And I was trying to reassure her that I was just so happy and so grateful to have met her. And I was just saying, I just appreciated it so much. And I just said, no, it's awesome. And the license plate next to us, outside the restaurant, said awesome. So it was like Jessica had just said, yes, Mom, you got it. You got the message. And to me, that was just, it was just an undeniable message that, that she wanted us to know that, again, we had this amazing backstage pass to know that she was well cared for. And I can't think of anything that a parent would rather have than to get that message and know without a shadow of a doubt that she was well cared for. Now, excuse me, again, I started to see messages constantly, again, lots of license plates. But the first thing I said to someone was that I was just really having a hard time accepting that Jessica was gone. And then I see a car pulls in front of me and it says acceptance. And then as I was thinking, I really just wonder where Jessica is. I see a license plate that says beside you. And I'm sitting in the line at Starbucks and I'm thinking, I really, really just want to know that Jessica's okay. And the card that's in front of me says, totally okay. And then the final question I had in my mind was, is this really you, Jessica, or are all these just coincidence? And then I see a car pull up where I'm getting gas, and the license, a little zippy convertible, so I can't miss it. And it says, it's me, it's me. So to me, that was just an incredible validation for me that, it was definitely Jessica. And I also started seeing about the same time a lot of license plates that were scripture, which I was not very familiar with, but it forced me to look things up because growing up in a mixed household, to me Bibles were in hotel drawers, and I really didn't have a lot of experience with organized or formal religion. My father was actually a Holocaust survivor, and my mother was a spiritual healer. So between the two of them, growing up in the hippy dippy 60s, I really didn't have a lot of formal introduction to the Bible. But the first thing that I saw was John 14, which is, don't let your heart be heavy. There are many rooms in heaven, and will prepare a place for you. And then I started to see more and more. So I started taking note of all of those, and it was really, really overwhelming. Now, fast forward to, I guess, the first holiday without Jessica. She passed in May of 2018, so this has been 2 years. But the first holiday without her was awful, as most of you know. Going through the holidays is particularly challenging, and she was our little tree picker, my little elf, and all of that. But it was just a really, really tough holiday. And a lot of her friends were telling me that they were having dreams of her, and that she came to one friend and said that heaven was more beautiful than anything she could have ever imagined, and that she didn't miss us because she was looking out for us and watching over us all the time. And another friend said she came up to her at a concert and said, everything is going to be okay. Everything is great. And they had been to concerts together. So it was sort of in line with how she knew them. And that was the way that she came to them, so that it would be familiar to them. And I was meanwhile saying, come on, Jessica, I can take it. Come to me. Like, I want to have a dream of her. I want to experience that kind of visitation. And I was getting nothing. And I was starting to get really upset. And I was like, come on, I can take it. So I got through the holidays, and the night the night before New Year's Eve, I sort of just cried myself to sleep. And I asked God for more. And I really don't even know what that meant, short of holding her or hugging her. I just said, I want to turn the page on this grief. I want to start the new year fresh. And I want to be able to move forward. And I really, really wanted that dream of Jessica. So I went to sleep that night, and I didn't have a dream of Jessica. But the very next day, about 2:30 in the afternoon, I get a call on my home phone, and it's a stranger, complete stranger, a woman that I've never met, who tells me that Jessica has been communicating with her. Now, my first thought was, okay, wackadoodle, who is this person? How'd she get my number? But it turns out that she was a social worker who worked with children on the autism spectrum. And that's exactly the kind of person that Jessica would go to. But she said, I'm not a psychic. I don't know why this happened to me. Her boyfriend's daughter was in a youth group with Jessica, so she knew of her, but she didn't know her. And she said, I found her dad's phone number where I'm divorced. And she said, but somehow it didn't feel right to contact him. I felt like this was a message for you. And I felt like you and Jessica had this incredible connection. And I also just really, really felt like I had to reach out to you before New Year's. And that was my prayer, to say that, I really wanted to be able to turn the page on grief and move forward. Now, she started sharing things with me that really there was no way she could have known. And I wanted to read what some of those things were, because, I just said, I'm not going to remember all this. And I asked her if she would meet me for coffee. And she had 6 pages of handwritten notes. And she described it as a download that, literally she woke up, she wrote down the day, the time. And she said, I don't want to say Jessica was pushy, but she was very persistent. And so I want to share a little bit of what she said with me. And she asked some really, really, sort of big existential questions. But on 12/21, this was right before Christmas, and her name is Lauren. She said, I was a failure, no kids, no marriage. This is Lauren. And Jessica said, was I a failure? And Lauren said, no. And Jessica said, I hope to use heart, not words, to spread hope. And Lauren said, any message for parents? And Jessica said to mom, it's, I'm okay. It's all good. Death is just a concept. There's no truth to it. You just leave one place and go to another, but hard to leave family and loved ones. And she said, why did you pick me? And Jessica said, your soul is like mine. You are an unwavering do-gooder. You never give up to help kids. You are special. And she said, have you tried to contact folks? And she said, yes. And she said, how? And Jessica said, through love messages. And she said, what's that? And Jessica said, a kiss on the hand, head, I blow kisses. And Lauren said, do they feel it? And Jessica said, not sure. They look up, they stop, they think of me. Tell them I love them and I never meant to hurt them. And Lauren said, how did you hurt them? And Jessica said, I left them. And she said, you didn't mean to leave them. And Jessica said, I should have fought harder. And she said, they gave me everything and I couldn't even give them myself. And Lauren said, what do you mean? And Jessica said, I was supposed to be a surgeon and save lives and carry on the family name of those killed in the Holocaust. Now, again, she had no way of knowing that my father was a Holocaust survivor, or that Jessica had said since the age of 5 that she wanted to be a surgeon. But that was what she told her. And you know, my father was 12 when the Nazis came and his entire family was wiped out. And he had some amazing stories as well. But anyway, she said, was Grandpa a Holocaust survivor? And she said, yes. And she said, what happened when you died? And Jessica said, I didn't die, right? You keep saying that. And she said, what should I say? And she said, moved on. And she said, moved on where? And Jessica said, to a higher plane. And she said, what does that mean? And Jessica said, where more love resides, no war, only peace. And she said, why did you die? And she said, God wanted me here. I can do more good. And she said, how? And she said, reaching more people like you. You're good with the pen. And she said, but we aren't talking. And Jessica said, heart communication. And then she said, Lauren, gotta go. And she said, where do you go when you're not with me? And Jessica said, I go to watch over family, make sure Jordan doesn't get into trouble. He's a risky kid and I need to keep him safe. Now, Jordan is my older son who's struggled since Jessica was diagnosed and subsequently since she passed. And he's been hospitalized 6 times since in the 2 years since she passed. And no one had any way of knowing the struggles that he's been through. And she mentioned him by name and said that he's a risky kid and I need to keep him safe. And she said, are you stuck where you are? And Jessica said, no, I choose to be here. And she said, where would you go if not here? And where is here? And Jessica said, here is between reality and non-reality. Reality is what we call life. Non-life, or death, as one may say, is non-reality. And Lauren said, is death, so death isn't real? And Jessica said, you can't touch death. You can't see death. You can only feel death. That's why I came to you. And Lauren said, you feel death? And Jessica said, death is just after life. And she said, what do you mean I feel death? And Jessica said, you feel the heart energy, the love energy of those who have moved on. That's the truth. The real concept of death, death is everlasting. And she said, is that an oxymoron? And Jessica said, no, death lasts forever. It means it's not a finality. It goes on forever in the sense that it never really happened. And she said, okay, tell me later. She found that a little bit confusing and she said, okay, gotta go, check you later. And she came back and said, shocker, huh? And Lauren said, yes. And she said, I had to do something to get your attention. You've been hanging around me for months. It's been pretty intense. And Jessica said, I didn't mean to scare or hurt you. And Lauren said, hurt me? And Jessica said, you cry. And Lauren said, because I feel your pain. And Jessica said, there's no pain. The pain is gone. And she said, are you with your grandpa? And she said, yes. And she said, what's it like? And Jessica said, no words, light energy, my heaven. And she said, what do you mean, my heaven? And she said, I am here. I've arrived. Everyone move over and give me space. And that was typical of my daughter, you know, typical teenager, get out of my room. So that was very much her personality. And she said, tell mom that she'll know it's me. And she said, you have a sense of humor. And she said, yes, boo. And Lauren said she could feel Jessica's presence behind her. And she said, I plan to stay around a while. And she said, what is God? Do you know him? And Jessica said, it's all love, love energy. So that was a pretty amazing like I couldn't even be sad after that. Because I got exactly what I had asked for. I got exactly what I had prayed for. I just got it in a completely different way. And so it's just amazing to me. And then the last thing I'll say is that I got a Mother's Day card from Jessica, uh, and I got it the year after she passed. And everyone asked me, how is that possible? Literally, on Mother's Day, the year after she died, my oldest son was in the hospital on that particular day. And as it happens, the psychiatric unit of the hospital was on the exact same floor as the hospice unit where Jessica died. So it was PTSD for all of us. And that morning we had gone to visit him, and he ended up coming home that week, but he was still there on Mother's Day. And interestingly, when we went to see him, I think there is something about mental illness where the veil is just very thin. And one of the first things he told me is, Mom, your brother John's been helping me out a lot. My brother John passed away when the kids were very little. And he was much older than I was. And we didn't have a great relationship, but we did have this amazing family trip together to Hawaii, which I don't think I ever shared with the kids. But Jordan says, your brother John's been helping me out a lot. And I'm very open and said, yes, okay, that's great, And he says he really loved that trip you guys took to Hawaii. And I said, oh, okay, that's great. And he said, he really feels bad about the way he treated you. He was a terrible big brother. But anyway, so that was so funny that he said that. But, and then he said, and Jessica's been helping me out a lot too. And I said, oh, okay, really? And he said, yeah, she's telling me that I need to stand on my own 2 feet and stand on my own 2 feet emotionally and not rely so much on the family. I said, oh, okay, that's interesting. That's exactly what Jessica would say. She'd say, pull yourself up by your bootstraps and, put your big girl panties on and get over it, kind of thing. So that was really interesting. He said, but, she's tending the flock and she's got screens, she's out in the field and she's got screens all around her and she can see everything that we're doing all the time. So, she's always watching over us. And he said, but, I feel really bad because he said, I was in a different stream going to another family, but I didn't want to be alone. So I pulled Jessica into my stream because we had been together before. It was a really, really interesting comment. And I thought, okay, that's interesting. And so I joked with him and I held him and I hugged him and I said, can we call that other family and send you back? But anyway, so, but after we visited with him, my younger son and I were out to brunch and, sort of doing the typical Mother's Day thing. And I get a phone call from a friend who I went to college with who knew Jessica had passed, but I hadn't spoken to her in about a year. And the first question she asked me was, were you in Philly yesterday? And I said, no, why? And Jessica's grandparents lived in Philadelphia, but she said, well, my daughter Amanda sent me this. And she sends me a picture by text, which I can't show you because the screen share doesn't work, but it was my daughter's artwork. She had tagged her full name in Jessica Joseph, and it was surrounded by hearts. Now, in fact, I will actually show it to you because I realized I can do this quickly. I can find it on here and show you. It'll take me 2 seconds on my favorites. Here we go. So can y'all see that? Or not? I don't know if you can see it. But at any rate, so it was her full name surrounded by hearts. Now she found this in an abandoned place in the middle of the Schuylkill River in Philadelphia that's called Graffiti Pier. Now you get a police citation if you even go out there, but her daughter and a group of friends snuck out to this place, and in this sprawling abandoned place, they found Jessica's artwork surrounded by hearts. And it was like she was telling me, I'm with you and I'm sending you love today. It was the best Mother's Day card I could have ever asked for. And for me to connect those dots, for her daughter to find this on Mother's Day in an abandoned place, in another city on Mother's Day was like just sort of mind blowing. Just sort of mind blowing. But anyway, oh, somebody, I have to unmute Elizabeth. Okay. Did that work? Or no? Let's see. How do I do that? I can't hear Elizabeth.
Okay, Elizabeth, you should be able to unmute yourself now. I went into security.
Yay, you did
Okay.
it. Yay, thank you. Okay, I could have gone into security too. That's very smart. I just did not think about that. But anyway, I just want to tell you, first of all, Susan, that's just a beautiful story. Oh my goodness gracious, what a wonderful thing to have Jessica be so communicative with you. And I have everybody in the chat box saying that they're going to purchase your book. They just love your story.
Thank you.
And I think that this is so beautiful what Doug is saying. He's saying, Susan, what a powerful message you have given us. Thank you for sharing such an intimate photo of Jessica in the hospital. I have a similar photo of my daughter while she was on life support. I've been afraid to share it with anyone, but now I may have the courage. I can't wait to read your book. And I think that's just beautiful. And, you know, just hearing you talk about all of these wonderful license plates, I was thinking the whole time, and I know you have photos of these, who would put that on their car? I mean, there are a lot of things that don't even make sense to have on a car.
I know.
But obviously they were messages for you. So that's beautiful as well as the fact that you picked probably some of the most beautiful songs possible for Jessica's service. And then to have all of them playing off of Pandora, but on a beach thing is very strange. Obviously Jack Johnson and Over the Rainbow, the Is version, those make sense, but none of the other ones do.
I know. Etta James and Adele and Louis Armstrong.
Oh my gosh, Louis Armstrong.
That's not beach music. That's not beach music.
So obviously Jessica. She was directing. But you know, the most amazing thing to me is hearing what the automatic writing that your friend got from her that is just incredible. Have you kept in touch with her, or is that the only time that you've had any contact with her?
You know, it's interesting. There have been a couple instances where she's reached out to me, and again, it's just been perfect, you know, sort of synchronicity. She literally called me in the fall, and this was like, I guess the first September after Jessica passed, and said, was there something about Jessica, you know, really wanting to go to the beach? And when Jessica was in the hospital, she literally said she wished they would just tell her that, you know, they were done with chemo, and that because all she wanted to do was to put her toes in the sand. And one of her friends actually brought her a huge big plastic bin with seashells and sand, because she said, if Jessica can't go to the beach, then I'm going to bring the beach to Jessica. And so this gal called me up, and she had a weekend down in Virginia Beach, and she said, I'd love for you to come with me. I feel like you should put your toes in the sand and experience it for Jessica. So that was just a beautiful, beautiful message. And then she contacted me recently and said she had a very interesting experience where she set her phone down on her car seat, and it started playing a song in Hebrew. It's called Mishi Berach. It's the prayer for healing. And she said, now I know that song, I know the prayer, but it wasn't on my phone. I don't know why it was playing. And she said, I was going through a really tough moment. And she said, but I saw an image of Jessica in my mind as that was happening. And she said, was there something where she liked to do this bunny ears, like peace sign? And within 5 minutes, I must have found 10 photos on my phone, Elizabeth, that had Jessica making this sign. And she said, but I see her in like sort of a 60s garb, you know, almost like a John Lennon period, hippie clothes. And she said, but I know she was too young for that. And the first picture I found was Jessica dressed up with a headband and John Lennon glasses, and she's making, she has long hair and she's doing the peace sign. And that's exactly the image that she had of Jessica in her mind.
That's
So
amazing. She's
it was
probably
incredible.
hanging out with John Lennon too.
Probably.
I'm sure they're
probably.
making beautiful music together.
Yep.
But
Yep.
anyway, I just want to tell you some of the things people are saying. Polly is saying, this is amazing. Adriana is saying, beautiful. I read what Doug said. Kate says, we feel it.
Oh, good.
Anna is saying, I'm getting your book. And then Mary is saying, your story is so inspiring and beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing Jessica with us. And then I keep saying, please unmute me along the chat box. So this goes along with everything else that's so emotional. And then I'm saying, unmute me.
Sorry.
No,
we had some technical glitches tonight for sure. I know. I'm sorry I couldn't share some of the pictures.
Non-serious to have me saying, please let me talk. But anyway, so Claire is saying, this is wonderful to hear. I too got many signs from Spencer that were equally as real. Thank you. Helen is saying, your stories are beautiful. Kate is saying, these stories are very comforting. Thank you. Janet is saying, thank you for sharing, beautiful. And then Karen is saying, beautiful experiences. I wish so badly I'd hear from my son. And so do you have any maybe parting thoughts for people who are hoping to get those same kind of experiences but haven't yet?
Absolutely. I mean, what I tell parents, well, there are a couple things since I work with a lot of parents, but one thing I know when parents, I think, we're so stuck in that grief, right? It's such a heavy, heavy feeling. It's almost like wearing a wet blanket. And I really think energetically, there's something about the heaviness of that grief that just doesn't allow messages to come through when we're too deep in it. But once we're able to get to a point where there's a little bit of lightness and we can crack the window just a little bit, I think that we start to see those messages come through. And I think we definitely should ask for them and be very specific, because I've heard stories of people asking for balloons and for pennies and for special songs and for, just things that will be meaningful for you in terms of your relationship with your child. And what I tell parents who are really stuck in that place is to say, obviously we all know that it's an unnatural thing for our children to go before us. But if we were up in heaven and past the way it's supposed to be, right? If we went before our children and we were looking down on them, what would we wish for them? We would want them to find joy and connection and love. And we wouldn't want them to be sad or stuck in grief. And I say that it's the same with our children. Our children want the same for us. They don't want us to stay stuck in grief. And so that's what I would say. And just be very specific in terms of the messages that you want to hear or see, and start looking for them. Just try to be open and just realize that the further you can get out of that heaviness of the energy of grief, the more you'll start seeing those signs.
That's beautiful. And I think that the most important thing is to also remember to say thank you when you get those wonderful
Absolutely.
signs from your kids, because and then I've also heard that certainly we can ask for specific things, but sometimes they're not able to do exactly that thing. Mm-hmm. And if it comes close to it, we still say thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because they're getting there. They're working as hard as we are to communicate with us as we are with them. And sometimes when they're a little newer up there, they're getting help from their friends, but they're not necessarily as good at it as we are, as the other kids are who have already been there.
And they find other people. They find other people to deliver those messages all the time. They'll find a way to get to us.
Exactly. You're exactly right. And so Anna is saying, so true. Helen is saying, thank you so much. Valentina is saying, amazing stories. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And Linda is saying, thank you for sharing your journey with your beautiful daughter. And she is just absolutely beautiful. Jessica is so beautiful. And I know she's so proud of you to be telling her story and to be keeping her alive, and not just with her brothers and with her friends, but with everyone, to let everyone know that this isn't it. That this is just a very small part of everything that we live. So thank you. And I'm going to make sure to put all of the information about your book in your on your YouTube video. I am so sorry about the screen sharing. I don't know what happened tonight.
I'm just
that was
sorry
the
that we did.
thing.
It just, those, some of the messages are so visual. So if folks, please, I would encourage you to just download.
Are those messages in the
they're in the book. They're all in the book. Yep.
So
all of those pictures I couldn't show you.
Make sure that you get the book so that you can see all these beautiful pictures that she was.
I know, it's so visual.
There's
definitely something about the communication that was very, very visual. So
which
that's
is wonderful. So that leaves it up to us to be able to see all of those pictures in the book. And thank you so much. Now, let's make sure that we unmute everyone. On the security, I think Irene might have already done that. Have you already done that, Irene? So that people can unmute themselves and say thank you and good night.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So thank you so much, Susan.
Yes. Thank you, Susan.
Thank you, Irene. Thank you, everyone, for
Thank
being
you,
here.
Susan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
Susan.
you. God bless
I'm
you.
so happy.
Thank you.
I'm so happy to have met Jessica through you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, it was beautiful to meet her. Thank you, Anna, for saying that. I love that.
Yeah.
And have a wonderful, let's see, I need to ask Irene to maybe stop the video because I cannot.
We'll do.
A recording. Can you do that?
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful.
Okay.
Anyway.
Good night, Susan.
All right, good night. Thank you all. Sorry about the technical glitches.
No, it's not your fault. There's